So let's talk about one of the most ridiculed, most misunderstood, and, believe it or not, one of the most brilliant deals in American history. Yep, we're talking about the purchase of Alaska. Imagine opening your morning paper and reading that. And this wasn't some fringe opinion, okay? This was pretty much what everyone was thinking back in 1867. The whole deal was seen as a colossal waste of money, a complete joke. And of course, a joke that big needs a name. It got one that stuck around for decades: SEWARD'S Folly. It was named for the Secretary of State, William Seward, the guy who pushed for the whole thing. And that name was just dripping with mockery. Which brings us to the big question, right? Why on earth would the United States, a country still recovering from the Civil War, spend millions of dollars on what most people thought was a totally worthless chunk of ice? Let's get into it. To really get why this happened, we have to look at what both the seller and the buyer were thinking. Because this wasn't just a simple land deal, this was a huge strategic play on a global chessboard. So on one side, you've got Russia. They were basically broke after the Crimean War. They knew this territory was super hard to defend, especially since it was right next door to their rival, Great Britain, in Canada. They figured, hey, better to sell it to our friends the Americans than to lose it for nothing to the Brits. Then, on the other side, you have William Seward. This guy had a vision. He was a big believer in manifest destiny, the idea that America was meant to expand, and he saw Alaska's incredible strategic value for things like trade and defense. This was the number that got everyone so worked up: $7.2 million. Now, to the average person back then, seeing that massive number next to pictures of, ice and snow, it just seemed like a completely insane amount of money to just throw away. The whole thing was made official with the Alaska Purchase Treaty. And get this, the negotiations were all done in secret, hashed out in a single all-night session. Just like that, this massive territory was handed over to the U.S. Here's where your perspective is about to completely change. This is the fun part. When you do the math, that huge $7.2 million price tag, it breaks down to just 2 cents an acre. 2 cents, can you believe that? For land that would turn out to be one of the most resource-rich places on the entire planet. So if it was such an amazing bargain, why was the public reaction so bad? Well, let's dig into that, because everyone really did think this was a total flop. The press had an absolute field day. They came up with all these creative, nasty nicknames. You had Seward's Icebox, Wall Russia, and my personal favorite, President Johnson's Polar Bear Garden. That one just perfectly captures how people saw it. Nothing but a useless frozen zoo. And the critics? Well, they did not hold back. This quote really sums up the mood. People thought America hadn't just bought land, it had bought a problem. A remote, expensive, and completely pointless burden. And for almost 30 years, that's what people believed. Alaska was pretty much ignored, and the purchase was a running joke in American politics. But then, something happened. Something that would transform that icebox into a real-life treasure. As you can see from this timeline, it was a long wait for Seward's vision to pay off. Through the 70s and 80s, the mockery just kept going. But you want to pay close attention to that last date, 1896, because that is when our story takes a very dramatic turn. For decades, it really seemed like the critics were right. The investment had shown zero return. It was a failure. Gold. In 1896, prospectors in the Klondike region, right near the Alaskan border, they struck gold. And we're not talking about a little bit. It was a massive discovery that kicked off one of the biggest gold rushes in the history of the world. And wow, this chart just says it all, doesn't it? Look at that tiny little sliver on the left. That's the purchase price, $7.2 million. Now look at the bar next to it. That's the estimated value of the gold from the Klondike Gold Rush alone, over $1 billion. The purchase paid for itself more than 100 times over with just that one discovery. But here's the thing. The story doesn't end with gold. As incredible as that was, it was just the tip of the iceberg, no pun intended. The true value of Alaska is so much bigger. Just think about it. Its strategic location became absolutely critical during the Cold War. It holds some of the country's largest oil and natural gas reserves. It's home to huge fishing and timber industries. And of course, its stunning natural beauty fuels a massive tourism economy. Seward's Folly turned out to be an absolute powerhouse. This chart of Alaska's economy today shows just how valuable it is. You see that oil and gas are huge, but so are the military presence, fishing, and tourism. It's not a one-trick pony. It's a complex and vital economic engine for the whole country. It all comes down to this complete 180. What was laughed at as an icebox and a colossal mistake is now understood for what it really is: a vital strategic asset, a resource powerhouse. And, without a doubt, one of the greatest bargains in history. Kind of leaves us with a fascinating question, doesn't it? The story of Alaska is this powerful lesson in having vision when everyone else is short-sighted. It really makes you wonder, what big, misunderstood, maybe even mocked idea of today will turn out to be tomorrow's greatest asset?